When people call you intelligent, it's almost always just because they agree with what you say. Right? If you're on their side, then you're smart by proxy. And if you're on the other side, you're dumb by proxy. And this is also why some people might be offended when a dumb person thinks that they're intelligent.
I think that the most brutal pill is the IQ pill. We constantly talk about the height pill, the frame, the face, the looks, the self-improvement, gym, maxing this and maxing that. But what if you can't do all of that, not because it is hard, but because it is even difficult to grasp these concepts? I said in one of my videos that people who understand the black pill are more likely more intelligent than the average guy, because they want to understand the underlying factors under everything. Why are some people more successful than others? How are some people perceived as competent even though they mess up everything? Why do some people live way easier lives and enjoyable lives compared to some? How deeply do genetics run, and how much are looks important for your success? All of these questions are difficult questions to answer, and if I started asking these questions to random people on the street, I would be getting so many different answers that it would be difficult finding the truth. This process of collecting data, eliminating and removing inconsistencies, and checking facts while remaining unbiased is a hard road to take. But what if you can't do that, due to your intelligence? During my childhood I played games that required some brains to be good at. In Minecraft, I was always good with redstone and building complex structures. In first-person shooters, I always relied more on angles and outpositioning rather than my reaction time. One time I was asked by my close friend, "Hey Swen, Livin, I have been playing these games way longer than you. How so that every time you play these new games, you just become better than me just so fast?" And my response was that I was just getting the mechanics faster. I understand what the game asks me to do, and I try to find the most optimal and most rewarding way for completing the main task. And it made me question, is my success in video games linked with my intelligence? Is my brain just wired for that? I mean, I have a friend who has been playing one champion his entire life in League of Legends, Pantheon, on the top lane for years, and I kid you not, he still does not understand the mechanics of that champion. He usually says that he is not a virgin and just brushes it off because he sucks at playing such a simple champ, but I find that to be a cope. It just doesn't make sense to me that someone can spend so much time doing an activity, playing one champion for years, yet not being able to improve on it naturally, which made me realize how brutal the IQ pill is. I understand that I have just been humble bragging here, or I'm better at video games than some, woo-wee, what an accomplishment. But some people out there, and by some I mean a lot of people actually, are truly gatekept by their own intelligence. They are gatekept from fully understanding some concepts about this world, and the only reason how they survive and exist is because of supporting systems. Size and power weren't the reasons of our survival as a human, it was intelligence. Less intelligent people had harder time protecting themselves from others due to the fact that they couldn't craft and maintain tools, shelters and other survival stuff. Less intelligent people are easier to scare off and manipulate for your own gain. Less intelligent people just can't fully dive into poetry, philosophy, arts, science and similar, which to me is so scary. I'm fully aware of my limitations in my intellect. I am intelligent enough to understand when I am doing something wrong. I'm aware of my stupidity, but I'm also not intelligent enough to fix it. The moment when I realized that was when I bought Thus Spoke Zarathustra by Friedrich Nietzsche, because prior to that I was listening to hours and hours of podcasts and interpretations of Friedrich's work. Yet with all that help, I couldn't understand a single bit from the book when I read it myself. I tried to interpret the book for myself, but I just couldn't due to my inferior intelligence. When someone asks me something about Friedrich, I would not give him my own answer. I would give him an answer someone else answered to me. It does not come from my position of understanding, but rather someone else's. Many times I asked myself, how are some people just so stupid, and how did they survive? How can't you see, heck, even visualize my own worldview, whilst I can yours? One time at my job, we were discussing how an autistic and socially awkward guy at my job would improve his life if he just dropped his phone and started talking. And everyone, including me, were agreeing with the statement, except I was doing it just to maintain my image in the social group. My perspective was way different. That guy is not autistic and antisocial because of his phone. He's on his phone because he is autistic and antisocial. His phone addiction is not the cause, rather it is a symptom of a deeper problem. That guy was never connected to any community, didn't have friends, didn't learn how to socialize, didn't learn how to read a body language. And because of that, because you must cope somehow with your loser life, he deluded himself and fully thrown himself into the digital world. And I thought I was insane for having this thought process. I do not know when, but at some point before I made a goal of pursuing the truth of this world. I started turning every rock, crossing lines and lines of information to see and to learn why and how this world functions, how my desires shape my actions and reality, how my actions shape my self-image. And going through the red pill, it led me to the black pill, because the black pill promised me the unfiltered truth. I made a decision to step into it, knowing fully well that it will change my cognitive framework forever. That made me question, am I insane? Is something wrong with me? I stuck my dick into a blender. They call me the masturbator. Why is no one around me obsessed with human nature and human behavior, even though that is what we are constantly surrounded with? Why is no one around me obsessed with philosophy? Why is no one around me questioning their existence? I asked myself 1,000 times, why am I here? And even though yes, I'm here because my dad cream-pied in my mother, I ask myself, what does my life mean to me? Do I just try and fulfill my desires at all cost to minimize suffering? Or do I remove desires and become a loser in society? Why do I even suffer, and how do I cope with the fact that my suffering is totally meaningless in the grand scheme of things? I sometimes hate that I'm not way more intelligent, because I directly see where I'm cock-blocked. I want to expand my world, I want to learn more. I want to turn mountains just to see. But what if, when the mountain is turned, I see nothing? Not because there is nothing, but because my brain perceives that there is nothing. But I'm aware of that. What about those who are not? I feel pity for the people who cannot see the invisible strings that operate the world. Such a different perspective that cannot even be grasped. They are just free vessels who intake information without second thought. Free vessels who operate upon their primal and animalistic instinct. I remember the times when we were all kids and we really liked having those deep topics late at night, sitting on those plastic chairs. Now our nights are filled with alcohol and drugs, with only topics being around girls and cars. I cannot be satisfied anymore by these normal talks. It is no wonder for me that I have developed such a huge YouTube addiction. People on here, on my feed, are 100 times more interesting than 80% of the people I know. This guy talks about the structure of society, this guy talks about eugenics, this guy talks about superior and inferior cultures, this guy talks about how our language shapes our behavior and thoughts, this guy talks about unique ways of exploiting people for gaining money. This guy talks about how our brains operate. So many interesting personalities and characters here, and I'm stuck with people who have interest in cars and gambling. They tell me get a life. Bro, I know more about life than you. The IQ pill is brutal. It is more important than looks or status, because if you want to improve that, you need the IQ in the first place to begin with. If your IQ is low, how do you apply knowledge? How do you exploit resources? How do you make the correct decisions in your life? How do you know when you're wrong, when you're right? How do you know the right course of action to gain what you want? Thank you for watching.